Hello, everybody, and welcome to Casual Esports Amateur League's playoff preview. I am Ansem571.
Boozle Bamboozle over here, and we'll be going through the Freljord division this evening. Last season we did a full breakdown where few of us went into detail on all the divisions. We did it all in one chunk, knocked it out in about 2 hours. Unfortunately, it led to a couple teams being overlooked. We went quite a long time, spent quite a long time on some divisions as opposed to others. So we thought it'd break it up a little bit this time, and don't expect much of a live audience watching this, but this is mostly for people who want to go back and take a look at our YouTube videos. Check out the playoff preview, especially people who aren't really following our Freljord division. Um, that one's first up on the docket tonight. And then we're going to be bringing Noxus, talking about Noxus and the playoffs tomorrow. Um, and then next week we're going to be covering Shurima, Ionia, and Demacia. Basically, the way we selected these is Noxus and Freljord kind of got set up for playoffs right away. Freljord, we already know what teams are going to be playing, who's going to be slotting into what playoff seed, and some of the Shuriman and Ionian games are still have yet to be played this weekend. So we don't really quite have a full picture of what the playoffs are going to look like for those teams in those divisions. So that's why we're starting with Freljord. So we're going to take about a half an hour on each of these episodes and kind of just run down how each of these teams got there, what we're looking at for playoff standings. We'll talk a little bit about some of the stats, make our predictions on some of these first round and possibly second round matchups, depending on the playoff format. And then that'll do it. So we'll just be talking about Freljord tonight. So anybody who's watching from that division can kind of try and find your team at some point during this half an hour, as we'll be spending a little bit of time on each team that'll be making into playoffs. So let's get the standings page pulled up so we can see what exactly went down in Freljord this season. Because kind of an interesting one, we had to have a couple of matches decided by tiebreakers. So we don't actually do tiebreaker games themselves because, well, let's be honest, those are kind of a nightmare to schedule. Getting those on the board kind of only delays our playoff matches, postpones them a little bit. So tiebreakers in our league are decided based off of, first of all, head to head, and then strength of schedule record. If a team went even,
Oh no, no.
went in the head to head
So
versus the team they're tied with. Sorry, go ahead.
well, the strength of schedule, that is the last part of it. So just to clarify for other divisions, because this division was actually nice about it and just had either 2-0s, or just didn't tie with other teams. So the way how tiebreakers go is first off, head to head. Did you 2-0 your opponent? Yes, good. All right, you make it on. The After that, it is by game time win. So if you won game 1 by 30 minutes, but your opponent won by 29 minutes, your opponent would be technically higher seed just because of the time differential. If they were 30-30, then it would go to strength of wins.
Cool. So yeah, I had that reversed. So strength of wins basically meaning that if two teams are still tied when it comes to that specific tiebreaker stat, a team that beats one of the stronger teams would have an advantage over a team that beat all the teams below them. So in that case, if you're still tied to that point, you hope you've taken a game off of some of the higher ranked teams, and that's what kind of strength of schedule tiebreaker looks like in that scenario. So let's get the standings pulled up so we can see exactly where each team is at right now. So Stars United Esports Club. These guys have been in our league at least since season one, if not season zero. These guys have always, I will dive into their roster a little bit later, but these guys have always come up second, just short of the title, and they came in with a strong regular season. They're looking to take home the championship and break out of that second place slot. In second place, we did have a tie between Credible Hulk and Friends and Dem Boys, and due to our tiebreaker rules, like Ansem said, it was a 2-0 that got Credible Hulk that second place spot. So the standings aren't reflecting exactly who took the tiebreaker. So Credible Hulk is actually seated into second place. Dem Boys are slotted down into third because Credible Hulk did 2-0 them during the regular season. We have the Guinness guys at 6-6. They'll be taking our fourth place spot. Anarchy Amber, one of our few Anarchy teams that has joined our league this split. Super happy to have them. They'll be slotting into our 5 seed. And then SEAL Team 6 and Flow Gaming, our final 2 teams. And it was a very late season 2-0 by Flow Gaming that secured them that 6th place spot. So, Ansem, you want to run down for us exactly what our playoff bracket is going to look like and what the seeds mean for each team going into playoffs, what our format is going to be like.
All right, so to remind everybody how top six in pro play, because this is how we're modeling off of used to be, is that the first and second seeds were gifted a slot straight into the semifinal bracket. They skipped the quarterfinals. So with the quarterfinals, it'll be the third seed versus sixth, and the fourth versus fifth. So that would be Dem Boys going up against Flow Gaming and Credible Hulk versus, or sorry, Anarchy Amber versus Guinness Skies. Um, and then after that, when it goes into semifinals, Stars United Esports Club, they would play against the lowest seed that won in the quarterfinals, and then Credible Hulk would play the highest seed. So if 3 wins and 4 wins, Credible Hulk would play Dem Boys, and Stars United would play Guinness Guys uh, as the semifinals, and then from there it's as our standard top four. Whoever wins those two would go into finals.
Yeah, so this is kind of
Oh, it's
shout out
pronounced.
to
It's pronounced nice guys.
the nice guys. It's not even the G. Nice guys.
Yeah, it's not even the G.
Okay, I like that. I liked Guinness guys too. Sounded like a beer shout out. But anyway, so yeah, this playoff format is throwback to old LCS format. And just like Ansem explained, we're going to open the first round with the 1 and the 2 seeds taking a bye. So Stars United and Credible Hulk and Friends will be sitting out our first round, and they'll be awaiting the winners of the Dem Boys Flow Gaming matchup and the Nice Guys Anarchy Amber matchup. So that's what playoffs are going to look like for Freljord, guys. Now let's jump into each of the teams and talk about them a little bit, and some of the notable games they had during the regular season, as well as some stats that kind of jumped out at us. So let's jump into right away. We'll go to right at the bottom, and we'll start with Flow Gaming here. So if we pull up Flow Gaming, we'll take a look at their roster here. A fairly new team coming into this league. We haven't seen them around. I think this is their first, definitely as a team together. This is our first. This is their first split, and like we said, they 2-0'd SEAL Team 6 right at the very end to be able to squeeze into playoffs and take that 6th seed.
So Flow Gaming as a team, they were actually in here last season. I believe that they got their current jungler this season. But I know First Degree, Open Base, Anquish, they were all here for last season.
Okay, perfect. So Flow Gaming, we'll talk about them a little bit. Their captain is Anquish. He is in support. Played support this season for them. Their ADC was Open Base. Mid lane was Waffle Iron. Jungle is Z Hughes, and top is First Degree. Some notable stats from these guys. The most MVP votes on their team went to their ADC Open Base. And he had actually 2.5 on his MVP score, which just edged his jungler Z Hughes. So ADC was picking up the MVP stats there. The KDA leader was their jungler Z Hughes, just edged out the ADC with a 2.71 on his KDA. CS per minute went to Open Base at ADC. And then the kill participation, a stat I really like to look at, and it kind of, even if you don't end up catching all the action or watching all the games, you can look at the stats and tell by the kill participation, at least sometimes, how each of these teams play the game. So when I'm looking at the kill participation, I see their jungler Z Hughes taking the lead with a 62.4 kill participation percentage, and then Waffle Iron just behind him at a 60%. I kind of have a good idea of how these guys like to play the game. And a mid jungle synergy was a really strong synergy during this season, and has been for quite a while. One of the key elements to opening the map is a good mid jungle synergy. So these guys showed it off. It showed up in their kill participation percentage. So Z Hughes, congratulations to him on his on the lead in the KP percentage there. And then Vision Score, of course, went to the support there. Anquish with the 61.6 Vision Score. Any other stats or cool things about this team you want to highlight, Ansem?
Let me see. So I would probably say the uh as the sixth seed that squeaked in at the end. What they need to do is to clean up their deaths because I'm looking at a lot of high number values for their deaths, and That's probably going to be the biggest detrimental to their team if they uh, want to have a shot at winning the whole thing.
So they're going to be going up against our third seed in the first round. They're going to be taking on Dem Boys. So if we look at the matchup that they played previously, Dem Boys did take that in a 2-0, and that was right towards the beginning, week two. So kind of previewing this matchup here just a little bit, and I think we should just jump into talking about Dem Boys here in just a minute. Um, but they played a pretty standard composition when it comes to how they position themselves to take the series. They played control mages in the mid lane. They played pretty aggressive junglers. Z Hughes played the Jarvan and the Silas. Um, and then open base played Lucian and Kaisa. They had a support Tom Kench and a support Galio. So the compositions were pretty standard. In game one, they went with a Jarvan Gnar combo, which is a pretty good combination in and of itself. Just weren't able to pull out the win. And then the second game, they went with kind of a more front to back with Oriana and Kaisa protecting each other, with a Galio and a Silas kind of up in the front line, or maybe at least in the mid line. So a bit more of a front to back, but they were just um, edged out by Dem Boys, who built more of a two tank comp and two carry backline. So they went with pretty standard compositions, nothing crazy to see, at least in this series during the regular season. Of course, it's playoffs, anything could happen. These guys could switch it up and pull something crazy out on us. So let's jump into talking about Dem Boys here, because we've already kind of previewed this matchup. So if we could pull them up here on the screen so we can take a look at their roster and chat about a couple of cool things for them. The captain in the top lane, Idacles. Idacles has been around the community for quite a while, was with us in Vantage, and then moved over to Casual Esports Amateur League. He's been bouncing around from team to team, but has settled on into Dem Boys, who has taken a third seed here in the Freljord division. Their jungle is Idex. Mid is Dab Nectar. ADC Sticks and Crons, also been around for a little while. Played in the Shurima division last season, and then their support is Vance, which is his first name, or the name spelled backwards for the second word of the summoner name there, which is interesting. I had to take a while to catch up on that. But taking a look at the stats right off the bat, Vance actually holds the assist record for Freljord this season. I wouldn't necessarily
Impressive.
say record,
Impressive.
but he had the most assists of any player in the Freljord division with 151. And with his deaths only at 38, that led to a team leading KDA well above the rest of his team at 4.74. Kill participation also topped the charts at vision score 63.1, right around where the rest of his team was. He even averaged over a CS a minute. His MVP score was just edged out by top laner Idacles, who led his team in CS per minute as his notable stat. Any other cool things we want to talk about for Dem Boys? They, unlike Flow Gaming, like to pull out some more unique picks. We saw Idacles whip out his Rengar in their series versus Flow Gaming, played Rengar top in their win, and he played that into the Gnar matchup and actually ended up doing pretty well. So we know these guys are a little bit different in the way they play, as our Dem Boys in the NFL. Don't know if that was a shout out to Dem Boys, but anything cool that you see from this team, Ansem, or that you wanted to point out before we talk about the matchup a little bit more?
So just as a note for actually for the MVP score, not saying that it is, but so when a captain is the person that has the highest score, you think either, wow, he's being a really good leader, or wow, he's hogging all them MVP votes.
Yeah.
Um, so just a funny thing that I see on a bunch of teams throughout the league that have happened throughout the year. Another thing that I actually found interesting. So with having a CS per minute of over one, that generally means that you are playing a melee support with or
Hmm.
somebody that uses one of the execute gold items, not one of the poke gold items. So,
Hmm.
for those who are looking to get a little bit over an edge, maybe look towards more things that counter stuff like Leona, Nautilus, Alistar, those kinds of champions, rather than the Zyra and Karma type of champions. I I personally haven't looked, but from that kind of a number as a support, that's what I see when I see that kind of a number.
Mm-hmm. So let's jump a little bit more into the matchup. We discussed the Dem Boys Flow Gaming matchup. This is going to be the 3 seed versus the 6 seed, like we mentioned already. We kind of discussed that from a Flow Gaming perspective. But when we jump over and look at Dem Boys and see the kind of stuff that they've been playing, their mid laner, Dab Nectar, very notable for his control mages. Plays a lot of that in Nivea. Actually played that Morgana a little bit. Whips out the Galio, stuff like the Malzahar. So definitely kind of stepping back and playing more of a supportive mid play style, which really works in tandem with their ADC Sticks and Crons. He's been playing in this league for a while. A really well-known ADC has seen success at even some of the top leagues in previous seasons. I remember most notably he subbed a game in I think the Ionian division last season, or maybe it was the season before. I think it was last season, but ended up actually popping off and helping his team to a win, substituting for the top division. So he's a really good ADC in his own right. And even when their top lane and their jungle don't build out with full tanks, like a 2 tank composition is pretty common
Mhm.
in a league like this, and backing it up with like a utility support and then a hyper carry ADC and then maybe a control mage mid. That's been kind of the staple meta. And obviously there are a lot of divisions and teams that like to kind of shake that up a little bit and go for some more unique picks. But we'll probably see Dem Boys go to that kind of a 2 tank comp. But it's hard to say because they've been successful when employing other strats as well. In Dem Boys series versus Flow Gaming, they played Rengar Olaf as their top jungle duo with a mid Galio and a Caitlyn Thresh in the bot lane. So they bring out their tankiness and the utility in any different roles. Sometimes it comes from mid, sometimes it comes from top. They played a Shen Zach in the second game. So the versatility in kind of isolating a carry role for usually the ADC, but sometimes through mid, sometimes through top, sometimes through jungle. Um,
Never
is
support.
pretty impressive to see. Yeah,
Never support.
sometimes for support.
Never
Yeah,
support.
support can carry too.
No, they can't.
Sometimes. Yeah, they can. Yeah, but we do see their support. He likes to play stuff like the Thresh. In week 4, he even played Brand one game. So he mixes it up a little bit too between his control or poke mages and his engage tanky support. So these guys are kind of on paper a lot more versatile, and they can carry from multiple lanes. So that's kind of I see that as a really big advantage from them. A lot harder to throw bans against a guy who wins with Rengar top, or a guy who comes out with Olaf or Silas or plays something aggressive in the jungle and can put up big numbers on that. So, final predictions because we got to move on to some of the other teams. Who do you think takes this opening series between Dem Boys and Flow Gaming?
I wholeheartedly believe that Dem Boys can, not to knock on Flow Gaming, but Dem Boys were that close to being the second seed. Just unfortunate for them against their series. I believe that they can clutch it out just fine. Um, they should now again expected a 2-0 victory, but who knows? Maybe Flow Gaming has some secret strat prepped for playoffs now that they made it in. We'll have to see how this goes. Hopefully, this will actually not just be a one-sided slaughter.
Some interesting games to take a look at. We've had them up on our YouTube channel that were streamed earlier this season. If you want to catch a look at Dem Boys, they actually played a game against Stars United. That series was broadcasted on our channel. They went 1-1. Really good series. Tied for the second team in the league and the #1 team in the league. So really good series to take a look at if you're interested in watching Dem Boys. And I'm sure scouting will be done. That series will be watched by both teams as they kind of prep for this series. If you want to take a look at Flow Gaming, the the game between them and who was it? Nice Guys broadcasted in week 4 is something that would definitely you can take a look at to find out more about Flow Gaming and how their play style is. As for me, I haven't watched much of either of these teams, but I think the numbers kind of speak for themselves. And I'm siding with Ansem on this one. I'm taking Dem Boys. We kind of pointed out with their compositions, the utility in the draft, the ability to go a lot of different directions with their carry roles is a huge asset. I don't doubt Float Gaming's ability to execute on a straight up front to back team composition. But I think volatility or versatility does matter a lot in a draft, and so I think Dem Boys will put them to a test seriously. So. Um, yeah, so that's all for these two teams. Let's kind of jump on here as we do want to keep moving along and finish these teams here within the next 10 15 minutes. So let's however realistic that may be. Let's jump to our other first round series between Nice Guys and Anarchy Amber. So if we could pull
No,
up
no. Oh, sorry. You're correct. Yep. No, go ahead.
our 4v5 seed. Yes, our 4v5 seed. Nice Guys took fourth, as we earlier mentioned in the division, with a 6-6 record, and Anarchy Amber just behind them in that fifth seed at a 5-7 record. Their match between each other was played at the very end of the season, and Anarchy Amber did end up 2-0ing Nice Guys. So pretty interesting, considering they are a little bit lower in the division. So the 5 seed 2-0, the 4 seed during the regular season. So that just kind of goes to show in playoffs, really anything can happen. In the regular season, anything can happen. So don't just take if you're making playoff predictions or kind of taking a look or predicting who's going to come out on top, definitely don't just take the seedings for granted. They're not set in stone. Anybody can, on a good day, upset anybody else. That's the beauty of a game
Hmm.
like League of Legends. So
Yes,
let's pop open.
your team would
Go ahead.
know from back in season 0. There was a undefeated team going into playoffs, and then uh, they did not win the playoffs because they got upset at the semifinals.
Yes, yeah, my team Spaceman Spiff, we were the number 1 seed with an undefeated record, and we lost to the 4 seed team. So yeah,
Rip.
it yeah,
It
it's
happens. It
it
happens.
happens. It happens to the worst of us. So let's hop open Anarchy Amber here as we take a look at their roster. Their Captain Dreadful in the top lane. The jungle is level 99 Kha'Zix. Their mid laner, Ishi Fear. Let me know if I'm pronouncing this incorrectly. ADC is Rabio1, and support is God Damn It Y. And God damn it, why finished with 130 assists, just shy of our support from that we were talking about from last time,
With
but wasn't able
151.
to quite, yeah, wasn't quite able to get those last 21 assists and come out on top. But still, 130, nothing, that definitely a very impressive stat as far as assists go. So as we kind of run down what the numbers from each of these teams look like, it becomes kind of clear right off the bat if you're looking at some of these stats, KDA, CS per minute, kill participation, that they play through their bot lane a little bit more, that the bot lane kind of controls the key to the game. He's got a 4.1 KD, does Rabio1, with only 40 deaths, 76 kills, and 88 assists. His CS per minute is higher than that, the average on the rest of his team. He puts up 417 gold a minute, so he's taken most of the gold. That's the share of that goes to him primarily. And his kill participation is even the highest. And you usually see that on the utility roles like support and jungle, who are impacting the lanes and roaming around, even on mid as well. But to see an ADC, and like I mentioned previously, I'm going to kind of go off this theme, but looking at kill participation to identify how a team likes to play, that 70.7 kill participation that leads his team kind of goes to show that these guys play around their ADC a little bit more than most teams, that they'll be comfortable with building scaling comps and playing for team fights. Anything jump right off the page to you, Ansem, as far as their stats go, or anything unique about this team that we can talk about?
So the thing that I actually want to point out is I look at the vision score average and I see the support is doing acceptable. I'm not sure how long the games go, but the fact that everybody else is effectively in that 30 range, it means that either such as the ADC or the top laner is buying a lot of pink wards, but the jungle is actually where I want to point some criticism to the team. It looks like he's not uh, doing enough in terms of vision, either that by clearing vision or getting vision. But he should have the second highest in terms of vision score, and it doesn't look like he's putting up the numbers that he needs to. So looking to see a little bit of improvement. Yes, I understand. Technically, he is the lowest ranked on the team, but if he wants to push his team over the edge, he'll be looking to up that vision score a bit.
you want to see more of Anarchy Amber, we broadcasted one of their games in week 1, their very first match versus SEAL Team 6. They did get 2-0'd by SEAL Team 6, but definitely a good match for them to be watching. And I'm sure that both teams in this series will be going back and taking a look at that series, kind of breaking down what happened that game, how these guys like to play. So let's jump into their the matchup that they will be playing. So they're going to be going against the 4 seed, who is Nice Guys, or Guinness Guys as we previously called them. But Nice Guys is how that's actually pronounced. And for this team, we have Berserker in the top lane. Their jungle is Holo the Wise. Mid laner, their team captain is Zenial, something like that. Their ADC is Singisia, and then their support is Respect Nothing. And as we look at these teams, or as we look at this team, some similar numbers jump off the board. Their ADC has by far the most kills on their team. So Singisia, with his 82 kills, leads the team. The second place is at 56, so that's 26 more than the next the second place in kills. His KDA is right at 5. Really goes to show his death count at 27 for an entire season. Pretty low. And if you're playing, 6, 7 matches, that averages out to be, just around 4 deaths a game, maybe even less for actually, if you're playing 6 matches,
Well,
divide that in 2 for 12 games, then that's looking down close to 2 or 3 deaths a game. So pretty impressive for an ADC to carry that kind of average death to put them at a 5 KDA. So
I hear
really good
respect
to
is
look
not a
at.
support anymore.
Oh yeah, what's
Could the
what
chat?
position is he?
I do not know. The chat is not telling me. But that would actually go in hand to explain a couple of things about his stats. Um, but if the chat could enlighten us poor saps who don't know nothing.
Yeah,
But
this
go
team.
go ahead and continue.
Yeah. So the Nice Guys, we have a game that's uploaded to our YouTube. You can catch them play their Week 5 match versus Credible Hulk and Friends, our number 2 seed. Really good match. These guys went 1-1 even on the series. Nice Guys, the 4 seed, taking a game off of the 2 seed. So really close match and definitely something to watch. A lot of good content there in an even series. You can kind of see how both teams like to execute and both teams' shortcomings and successes, see them in one series. So that's really cool about seeing a 1-1 series there. But yeah, like we mentioned in the head-to-head between the Nice Guys and Anarchy Amber, it was Anarchy Amber who ended up taking the 2-0. So as we look down, as we kind of break down that a little bit, that happened in week 5. Nope, sorry, that was week 6. Yeah, so actually we don't have the match data on that, so kind of hard to break that one down without that. And unfortunately, I don't think it was casted either. So, but you can catch like the Nice Guys, like I said, in their week 5 match versus Credible Hulk and Friends. So don't just trust us or trust the numbers. Go in and watch one of their games and see for yourself how these guys are doing. So yeah, breaking this down, taking a look at both of these teams, who do you have coming up on top in this series, Ansem?
So as mentioned, Anarchy Amber actually 2-0'd Guinness Guys.
Mm-hmm.
It appears that Respect Nothing was dropped from the roster due to not being able to contact him. So it's a player named Destiny, and I do not have information about him. I wish I did. But I I I feel like this is going to be one of those 3-game series because now you have this new player ha that is a big question mark, which can lead to it swinging one way or the other. Um, it's all dependent upon how well he fits with the AD carry, because if he's able to keep him with that relative KDA, then I think that Nice Guys could win. But with Anarchy Amber, um, I definitely feel like they have a lot more map control, and since they have Anarchy uh, as the org, uh, to help them to understand things a little bit better, uh, then I feel like Anarchy Amber still has that shot to being a 2-1 victory. But it could go either way if depending upon how this new support is.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting when you look at some of the champions played. Both of these mid laners, like the control mages, both of them play the Syndra. Um, uh, we see Zenial taking the Talia as well. He's favored that pick in some of their play. Ishifir has actually played the Kassadin a couple times as well. So some control mages and some counter control mages. So we'll likely see that battle in the mid lane. Both top laners can play bruisers and tanks. It's really kind of even across the board as far as the champions go. So like you said, I think I'm going with a 3-game series on this one, but I'm going to take Nice Guys for this series at a 2-1. So I'm going to go with the seeding, not because of the seeding, but I'm going to favor the 4 team there. I do think these guys have what it takes to take the series 2-1. But like you said, it's going to be really close. A lot of the stylistic ways in which these teams match up against each other are pretty similar.
Hmm.
And you'll find by watching the VODs that can kind of be true. They play similar support, similar mid, similar tops. So pick
Oh.
ban phase is going to be really interesting. So that's what I'm looking for to open out this series because a lot of picks up for grabs. So
I got
yeah.
antivirus pop up. That's gonna be in the VOD.
All right. Well, let's talk about our last 2 teams who we don't really get to preview playoff round for them because they get a bye, which is good for them. So Stars United Esports Club and Credible Hulk and Friends. So we got Credible Hulk and Friends right up there. So let's just jump into talking about them. Like we said previously, these guys tied with Dem Boys for the 8-4 record. But due to the fact that they did they did 2-0 Dem Boys in the head-to-head, they did slide into that second spot. Their top laner, Meristematic, jungle is Hulk, mid is Winged Nation, ADC is Itumbo, and support is Maxane. And their substitute is Villananners. So cool team with a lot of interesting names here. I like it. Meristematic played for Sentinels last season. I definitely recognize Winged Nation as well and a couple other names here. And if you look at their stats, the kill participation and the total amount of kills and assists jumps off the page at you right away. All
Yeah.
4 out of the 5 people with over 100 assists. That's crazy to me. I think in the last 4 teams we covered, they only a couple of teams had just one person over 100 assists.
Yep.
And Winged Nation, look at him right there, nearly at 100 kills. So far, he's our kill leader from the teams we've looked at 98. Not quite able to close out that 100 kills. And that is something you so rarely see. I don't know if we've seen that or highlighted that yet in the CEAL season.
So we
But
have in last season we did highlight a few players that did break that 100 kills mark.
sweet. Sweet.
Very few though, very few. I think it was like 2 or 3 people that did actually break that in the entire league overall.
Yeah, and to combine that with 125 assists is insane. He leads his team's KDA at 4.85, just 4/100ths of a point over the ADC Itumbo with his 4.81. Mid lane, 72.6% kill participation percentage takes the lead in that, as well as his jungle right up there with him. So kind of if you harken back to Float Gaming, we talked about them right off the bat as their mid jungle having the high kill participation, kind of dictating the way that they play this game. Same thing here we see with Credible Hulk and Friends as Wing Nation and Hulk take control of the game and really kind of unlock the game for the rest of their team. And Itumbo with his 50 kills and 123 assists, bringing up the late game insurance with his picks. So MVP score, look at that. Hulk 7 votes. None of the rest of his team got any votes.
So
Crazy. Doesn't
if
jump out
you
at you from the stats, but
if
he
you look at
sounds like a
their
good trade.
if you look at their logo, hashtag not my MVP, Hulk for MVP, spring 2019.
Yeah, look at that. It sounds like they're running a campaign to get this guy elected for Freljord MVP.
Guys, I hate to be the bearer of bad news.
We don't like that.
It's 2020, not 2019.
Yeah, interesting nonetheless.
Yeah.
Yeah, really cool team we got here. So let's jump into the some of the game that they played. Um, I guess well we can't talk about the flow gaming, but I'd rather talk about the game that they played with the #1 seed Stars United Esports Club. This was the only series they got 2-0'd. So kind of cool to let's talk about the #1 seed versus the #2 seed match. Um, And fortunately, we do have some match data on this one, so we can kind of see how that game unfolded. We're just highlighting this match just because it's the 1 and the 2 seed, not because it has really any implication in who this team might be facing in the playoffs, because they're going to be coming out fighting the higher of the highest seed that has emerged from the quarterfinals, like Ansem highlighted earlier on. So interesting to note, in this series, Marismatic played Shen game 1 and then Victor game 2. So did play that in the top lane, which is really cool. And they actually used Victor in game 1 in mid lane. So that could be a flex pick to keep your eye on here in this series, as they do like to play Victor in both top and mid. Their bot lane, they played a kind of a poke utility bot lane with the Ash Karma. Itembo and Maxane played Ash Karma. And then in game 2, they whipped out the Varus Leona. So when bot lanes can play multiple styles, whether they need to play weak side and play through top lane, or whether they need to play utility or engage or high damage, it's really good when your bot lane can play a variety of combos. And I like the Varus Leona synergy. I like the Ash Karma synergy. It's clear these guys are on the same page when it comes to their draft and what their goals are for bot lane. Their mid laner Winged Nation likes to play those control mages, played Victor and Vel'Koz in their series versus Stars United Esports Club. And then Hulk, does play carry jungles, which is what you'd expect from a guy who won 7 MVP votes, whether the whole thing was set up or not. Did play Kha'Zix and Elise in their week 5 match versus the Nice Guys. And then to highlight one more series, he did play the Rammus and the Nunu, switched over to tanks in week 3 in their series versus SEAL Team 6. So a lot of variety out of these guys. A lot of just raw power in their lanes. They flex the set too. So it's kind of cool to see at least several flex picks come out from this team. And that really can serve them well, especially in a longer draft where it's not a best of 2 anymore. It's a best of 3 in playoffs. And so flex picks can really give your team an advantage that way, like especially on blue side, when you could lock those in early without having to worry about counter pick because the enemy doesn't exactly know where each of them is going. So I expect to see Victor prioritize, set prioritize. You have no clue which champions those lanes are going in. So
And
pretty cool stuff on these guys.
another note that I would actually like to say is that Marismatic, so it says that his rank is Bronze 1, and that's actually impressive that he has what kind of a scoreline he has, because pretty much every other top laner in this division is Gold plus. So
Yeah.
the fact that despite his rank differential, he's actually performing fine. Like he's not being like too crazy with his deaths or kills, but he's doing what he needs to do, and that is critical for when you are outclassed in your role.
Yeah. And especially what's more impressive is he's not just playing tanks. Like for a long time, top laners have been able to just play tanks and kind of neutralize the lane, move down, help your team set up team fights later on. And it didn't really, take a lot of individual mechanical skill to keep up, or you didn't have to get a lot of CS. Tanks were kind of built to be able to endure a lot and not be punished super hard and be able to recover with a low economy. But yeah, Mersmatic, he's not playing that way. He's playing the Wukong. He's playing stuff like the Set. Even bringing out the Malphite, a tank that is a little bit worse with low economy than something like the Ornn. But yeah, he's not going to tank play style. He's rough and tumbling on those bruisers. So piggybacking off your point, even more impressive that he's able to do it on those types of champions.
Yep.
So yeah, if you want to catch these guys in one of their matches, take a look at their week 5 match versus Guinness Guys. It's on our YouTube channel. I'm sorry, I
Nice
said Guinness
guys.
Guys again. Nice Guys again.
It's fine.
Credible Hulk Boys versus Nice Guys on our YouTube channel for week 5. This series was a 1-1. So good series if you want to catch both the strengths and the weaknesses, the successes and the failures from this Credible Hulk and Friends team. So let's jump right over to our last team. So Stars United Esports Club, highlighted them at the beginning as the team that had come in second in both of the previous seasons. I think one was in the Noxian division, the other was in the Demacian division, but that's kind of irrelevant because we had, I think, 4 divisions our first season and 6 our second season, and we got 5
Yeah.
this season. So not exactly not exactly relevant to kind of identify which division they played in, but second both times. So they're looking to break out and take the championship, and they're set up to do it with a really strong regular season. Getting their stats pulled up here on the board, we'll take a look at their roster. They do have Obil Web M in the top lane. That was a very literal pronunciation. Might read something different. Soul Reaver in the jungle, Soul Links in the mid. Two players who I recognize definitely from a couple of previous seasons, especially Soul Reaver. I think he's captained this team for I think this is his third series now. Perseverance as their ADC, and then Wolfie X as their support. So statistically, not a lot jumps out at you at the off the page right away. Low deaths is definitely something that I'm looking at. Couple of players down 21 at their mid, and their support has only died 15 times. But KDA, look at that. Wolfie exporting a 7.67 KD. I think that's the highest that we've seen so far in this division. So minimizing those deaths, minimizing those mistakes, and you can kind of see it's not the team with the highest amount of kills or the craziest amount of assists or all this kill participation, but it's the teams that minimize the mistakes that they have that are winning, picking up wins in this division. So that kind of can jump right off to me at the stats right away. Kill participation also taken by Wolfie X and a vision score of 87.8. I don't think I saw anything higher than that. Did
Mm,
you, Ansem?
no, so all the others were below 70. So
Yeah,
that's
that
impressive. Like,
crazy. At least 20 above the rest of his competition.
yep.
One thing you do like to see, Soul Reaver, the captain, 0 MVP votes.
That's
Respect.
that's a leader.
Yeah, a team player to boot. Yeah, Soul Reaver not voting for himself even once during this season. What a man. All right, well, let's jump into some of their matchups that they played. Kind of look at what this team likes to play. Stars United Esports Club. They did 1-1. Their only 1-1 series was Nice Guys, and their only 0-2 was a series that they suffered at the hands of Dem Boys. So, interestingly enough, in week one, Stars United Esports Club did lose out to Dem Boys, and that was ended up being a 2-0. And what's more important, there really weren't any substitutes in that series, so that was just Dem Boys stepping up to the plate and opening the season strong with a bang. But Stars United Esports Club recovered after week one, only lost one game since. Let's jump to their week 7 series that they played against Credible Hulk. And we kind of highlighted this series from Credible Hulk's perspective. But since it has the most recent data that these guys have played, we can kind of get a better idea of what they like to do. Obil WebM played Darius and Alawi in those two games. And of course, since Stars United Esports Club did 2-0, did pick up wins on both of those champions. So the Darius and the Alawi. Soul Reaver played Kane and Sejuani in that series. And as I'm looking at some of his other games, I'm seeing stuff like the Graves to round out his champion pool. Things like the Gragas has played the Set. So kind of hovers between carries and bruisers, can play the tanks as well. Really versatile in the jungle. It's what you want from a great leader. Jungle often goes early in the draft as one of the earliest priority picks. You'd rarely save it for counter picks. So having a jungler that can play pretty much any kind of style, carry, bruiser, support, tank, whatever you need, really helpful for him to be able to play all those types of champions. In the mid lane during that series, Soul Links, their mid laner, played Ari and Anivia. So he's definitely a control mage player, plays the Oriana, even plays the Aurelian Soul, plays stuff like Ari, like he did in this series, and even things like the Victor and the picks like that. So control mages are what we're looking for. So we see that similarly to Winged Nation, who plays stuff like the Victor and the Vel'Koz. So we might see that Victor pick being traded a little bit or even banned, since we know Credible Hole can flex it if these two teams match up in finals or something later on down the road. Perseverance played at Phalios both games, so comfortable on that even after the nerfs that have come in over previous patches. And then Wolfie X liking to play those backline utility supports like the Lulu or even the Zyra, plays the poke supports there, plays stuff like the Nami. So kind of a straight up composition. None of these teams like to go super crazy with their picks. Pretty standard across the board. Control mage, hypercarry ADC, tank flex into bruiser in the top lane, or tank flex into carry in the jungle. Anything that jumps out at you at the style of this number one team, Ansem?
So definitely the vision score. The fact that everybody else is at that 20-ish, 30-ish vision score, he's really pumping out those numbers by getting a lot of pinks, a lot of sweepers out there. He wants to make sure that his team is covered, and it shows. They're the top of the board.
Yeah. There, if you want to check out a game from Stars United Esports Club, we have it on our YouTube channel. Their Week 5 match versus SEAL Team 6. Um, this did end up in a 2-0 for Stars United Esports Club. So you can go check that out on the channel. Here's one of our most recent uploads to see them in action as well. So yeah, don't take what we say. As a matter of fact, don't even take what the stats say. As a matter of fact, because
Un-
we had one team with 7 MVP votes in a jungle, so not a lot to go off of with that. So take a look at them, watch their games. Their playoffs are going to be coming up here pretty soon after the bye week. So hope you guys are a little bit more informed if you haven't been following the Freljord division. Hope we previewed all you guys, all you teams in the Freljord division pretty well. Really excited as we kind of did our research and dove into this one. And it just made us more excited to watch the playoffs unfold. And now that we kind of have predictions for each of these teams, I'm definitely excited to follow along. And I hope those of you guys who are just kind of tuning in to find out more about this division will be excited to watch their playoff series as well. So that's really all I had for this playoff preview. You have anything else to add, Ansem?
Not really. This is going to be a very close fight with the in my opinion for
Yeah,
uh who gets to be top four, and then
for sure.
who moves on to finals is really dependent upon who wins in the quarterfinals. Um, just because of how matchups have been, one team has another team's number, but it only will happen if and only if those matchups happen in the semifinals.
Yeah. There isn't like a super undefeated team. Each of these teams, has suffered, or at least half of these teams that we've talked about has suffered losses to a team below them during the regular season. So upsets have definitely happened and certainly can happen again. So you kind of have to throw off the standing sheet, kind of close that tab, and just watch the game for what it is, because really any team turn the nameplates and the standings off. Um, could pull out a unique composition, could stick to what they know, and take a surprise win. So really cool division to look at, and very excited for playoffs.
Yep.
I think that's going to wrap it up for our Freljord division playoff preview. Tomorrow we'll be hitting up Noxus and talking about them a little bit. But thank you guys for tuning in tonight, and we'll be back with some more content on some of our other divisions here tomorrow and then early next week. So for myself, Foozle Bamboozle, and for my co-caster Ansem, that'll do it for us. And have a good Wednesday night.
Good night, everybody.